in terms of this is all about using LinkedIn to grow your business. It's a Q4 update. So everything in here is, again, working right now. It's stuff that, again, if you've never attended a workshop of mine before, I'm going to cover this anyway, but I don't share any information, any lessons, any like teachings other than the stuff that I've done. So I'm not someone who regurgitates information and then pretends. So Q4 update, Wendy, is this quarter's update. So I like to do things a bit in advance. When we get into October, we move into Q4 of the year, so the last quarter of the year. So this is for the next 3 months, what I believe you should be doing to be able to get revenue from this platform. So it's not just about impressions, not even just about leads, it's about revenue. That is what we're going to be focusing in on today. Now, I've taken the time to speak to, that says 34 years. I've not been on the planet for 34 years. So that's meant to say 4 years. And I think it was 3.5 and I updated it. So over 1,600 businesses I've spoken to personally myself over the last 4 years of doing this. And what I have noticed, and this has actually been slightly refreshed recently, is that there are some key reasons why people are failing on the LinkedIn platform. So this isn't just about building a business. This is about the LinkedIn platform itself. And what I want you to do, as I bring these up, I want you to have a little bit of a think to yourself as to which one most resonates with you and what you believe, because self-awareness is the biggest thing when it comes to like taking the stuff that I'm going to be teaching you today and then implementing it. I want you to tell me, now you can do this directly to me or you can publish it to everyone, totally up to you, I don't mind. But out of the answers that I'm going to bring up to you, which one most resonates? Now, the first reason why so many businesses are struggling on LinkedIn right now is that they fail to understand how the algorithm works. And I hate the word like talking about this, like this algorithm, because actually there are loads of experts out there that pretend that they know, like they'll be regurgitating information out there. However, when I say the algorithm, I mean people. So you fail to understand how people work online, and therefore you get little to no responses from any messages that you send, from any content that you put out there, from any engagement that you do. The activity doesn't work because you don't understand how to get your people reacting and talking to you. That's number one. There's some real key things I'm going to be sharing with you today to give you insight into that. Number two is that you use the platform as a place to directly sell what you do. And again, this isn't everyone, but there are a lot of people out there that are trying to go from LinkedIn to a sale. And that jump is too big to take. You need elements, you need a process in place that connects a traffic source like LinkedIn to a point where someone's going to transact. And I don't care if you're selling products, services, selling to consumers, or selling to businesses. It is irrelevant. The process remains the same no matter what it is that you're doing. The third reason is that you can't get your ideal target market's attention. So you may be building your network on LinkedIn. For those of you that don't know, you can proactively build out your LinkedIn network yourself. You can't do this on any other platform. You can go and find someone that looks like your target client via job description, location, etc. Send them a connection request. You can send between 100 and 200 of them a week. However, what most people are doing when they're doing that is they're then failing to get their ideal target market engaging with them. So they can't get them responding from the activity that they're putting in. Number four is the one which I personally think is the biggest difference maker that so many people, unfortunately, from what I'm speaking to, do not have. And that is a predictable and a sustainable process that leads somebody from stranger to a valued customer. That process, you can automate a lot of it, but actually then the activity that you do when it's connected leads to consistent revenue, right? And I'm going to be sharing with you that process today. Most people, unfortunately, don't have that. And then number five is that it's the consistency part, right? So you may be active on these platforms, and I'm sure you are. You're utilizing social media, you're utilizing LinkedIn, you're doing all the things that every other person tells you to do. But consistently getting new business from it, unfortunately, is a struggle because you don't know how to nurture that relationship. And therefore, your strategy actually relies on the hope of someone reaching out to you, getting only inbound leads, rather than being proactive and going and getting it. Now, I'm curious because I'm covering every element of these 5 things inside of today's training. But I'm curious because I'll spend more time on certain areas depending on the answers here. Which ones out of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 most resonate with you right now? Which ones are the biggest kickers, the ones that you think are holding you back the most? So a bit of the algorithm stuff, cool. So process and then the strategy. Dave's come out there with ideal target market attention. Sophie's a 5, Anita's a 4 and a 5. So we've got a kind of a mixture of kind of like 1, 3, 4, and 5 with a couple of 2s coming through as well. Okay, great. So, I mean, I'll probably spend equal time, maybe kind of moving over quite quickly number 2 as we go through it. Okay. Now, I've split the session into 3 sections. So part 1 is going to be about the work that you need to do before you really start capitalizing on LinkedIn. Okay, that's clarity. Part 2 then is then the actual activity that you need to be doing on the platform, along with some insights into what's working and what isn't. And then part 3 is conversion, right? So how do you then turn that activity into making money? All 3 of them are as equally as important as each other. Now, again, lots of you are first timers here. Do not worry. I spend next to no time talking about me on these workshops. There's no sob story here. The facts are on the screen there. Like if you have any questions at all around kind of like who we are and what we do, scan that QR code, come and follow, come and connect with me on LinkedIn, check out my profile. We have hundreds of reviews, hundreds of recommendations from people that have worked with us over the years. Again, it's just out there. It's all facts and figures. Everything that we do is taken from the stuff that we've gotten results from. I talk more about the stuff that doesn't work, like more than the stuff that does, because actually there's so much. I mean, I don't want anyone to publicly name anybody, right? But let's ask this question: has anybody seen like an increase in the amount of social media advice that's out there on the marketplace right now? Right, I am seeing more social media experts than I've ever seen on these platforms. And what I'm noticing is that they kind of are all kind of like repeating each other. Like they're all saying the same things. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I do things quite differently. Our business does things very differently. We have certain things that we know works, and we do share lots of it online. But there's a reason why these workshops are where I share like the in-depth stuff. And then when you work with us, there's even more, because actually there's so much garbage out there on the internet. There's so much advice out there that you look at it and it's like from even like a common sense point of view, that is never going to work. That I sit there sometimes in just disbelief that people buy into it. And so like with it, what I want you to think about as we work through this today is, what have you currently been doing versus what it is that I'm saying that I then back up with evidence that makes what we're saying undeniable without sounding arrogant, because I know sometimes I can and I don't mean to. I just want to make sure I get my points across to you. And I think that then leads on to the reasons why I'm running this session today. So I don't always talk about LinkedIn. I use all the social media platforms out there apart from TikTok, right? I think social media is a great place to be able to build up an audience, build up a following, put out some content to showcase how great you are, put out an offer that people want, and generate business from it. I spend way too much time on it, way too much time scrolling, way too much time trying to figure out things. But then again, my business, right, is about figuring out what works on these platforms. We are, I guess, if you were going to sum us up, a business growth consultancy. It's kind of how we work. We have different services that then complement that. My job is to work out how to take advantage of these platforms. So I spend lots of time on them. But I deep down know that there are lots of people out there like me that don't like these social media platforms, right? I mean, again, you don't have to answer in the chat if you don't want to. However, who out here like doesn't really like using social media for big? Give me a yes in the chat if you're not a massive fan of it. You do it because you have to do it rather than because you've got a huge love for it. Now, that was me until I started to get like asked for help. So this isn't my first business. I had a property business before that. I had a little bit of an e-com business before that. And I've utilized social to sell online, right? So raise finance, to sell deals. And I've been utilizing social not just as a social media expert. And the reason why our stuff works is because We do it in other businesses as well, right? Now, there are people out there that love social, people out there that hate it. Again, I don't care too much. I just want to give you what works. And in terms of this workshop, like even just over the last 2 months, there's a few names on here. Paul Cooper, I can see you're on here. Like I run these different workshops all the time, right? And I offer out chances to speak with me. At the end of them, I'm going to give you the chance to speak with me today very shortly. Get the opportunity to book in. And I do that, one, to offer value to help, but two, actually to fact find. So our business has grown so quickly because I spend so much time talking to people about what's working in their business, what isn't working, and then testing. And over the last couple of months, I've had over 100 calls. It's probably closer to 150. And all of them have told me similar stories. They've been told in the past that they can generate leads from platforms like LinkedIn, but after trying, like for quite a long period of time, fail to see what they're doing wrong when they look out there and they see their competitors doing really well, right? And they then look at their stuff and they go, well, my stuff's quite similar to that. Why do they seem to be getting all the results and why aren't I? And therefore they fail to see how to make the changes required to win because everyone's kind of doing the same thing. They're putting time into creating content, right? I don't know how often you post like per week. Let me know. Like, are you someone that posts every day? Are you someone that doesn't really post at all? Are you a couple of times a week? Like I'm normally every day, but actually recently I've been focusing on other things, so I haven't. And to be fair, when you get to that point, you don't need to. Like it's about just understanding what you need to do to get the result. People are building their networks up, starting conversations, but the results are either inconsistent or non-existent, right? That's the feeling that I get. And I run these workshops, one, obviously to grow our business. There's no shadow of a doubt. Like that is the reason why I run them paramount, like fundamentally. But I'm also fed up with people that, and I get lots of messages and it's nothing on them. It's just a feeling right now that people have that social media platforms don't work for them. And I'm telling you, I've worked with pretty much every type of business right now, every industry you can think of. We've pretty much done some business with, from complete and utter startup all the way through to companies the size of FedEx and Mastercard, like huge businesses and small businesses. And there is opportunity to generate business through every single type. And the reason is because when you start to apply the psychology that I'm going to be sharing with you in this today, understanding what makes people buy things and starting to put that in the places online where people want to consume it, that's where the difference is seen. And my business partner, Nick, here, you can see his profile on the right-hand side. You can see his following was around about 22,800 people. Now, that was only a number of months ago. And at the time, Nick was posting content like sporadically, right? Maybe twice a week, 3 times a week. And the reactions almost felt like it wasn't worth it. Now, I know there are people on here, and I'm not going to ask you, but I know you're on here. You are posting content, getting very little engagement, and you believe potentially that if you just keep going, eventually it will happen. But your engagement is that low, you almost feel like there is literally no point in me doing this. And therefore, sometimes on the verge of giving up. This is very, very common. And it only takes us one conversation with somebody to fix that. And that's actually sometimes what I spend lots of time talking to people about on the calls that I offer out, a bit of content strategy and business strategy. Because when we started doing Nick's account, because Nick was a very, very successful person, I'm not too sure if he's on here or not. He won't mind me probably saying it, but like multi-millionaire, very, very successful, lots of different business ventures that he's been a part of. And he invested in our company, and we decided that we can't have you as part of it if you're not going to start practicing what we preach, right? You've got to start doing it. And so therefore, he then made the transition and went from 20 reactions to 100-ish, 200-ish, 300. Now, that's not every piece of content by any means, but Nick's content now outperforms mine massively. And his following, even in just the last 3 to 4 months, has gone up by 6,000 people. When you understand how to get it working for you, it happens quite quickly. People tell me that social media has anyone ever heard the advice that social media takes time? Like it's gonna take you a number of months. Has anyone had that? Just give me a yes in the chat. Have you ever had that before? It's gonna take you a while. You just got to keep going. Unless you've got 0 followers right now, you should be getting results pretty much if you run a campaign between 1 to 2 weeks. If you're not, you're doing something wrong. Hate to sound horrible, But people give this advice to the market in hope that people stay with them longer. So if you go pay a social media trainer, they'll say, right, you've got to put in the graft for a minimum of 6 to 12 months. And that's not because it takes 6 to 12 months to get results. It's because they want you to pay for 6 to 12 months. Now, we have minimum periods of commitment for people, right? So we have a 6-month contract in place. But the 6-month contract is there because we want to make the payments like an affordable amount to give people the chance to earn money before they're forking out huge amounts of money. It's not because the results take that long, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If you're not seeing results, change what you're doing, right? That's my first big piece of advice to you. And that leads me on to clarity, because clarity is typically the reason why people's social media accounts aren't working. It's got nothing to do with the actual platform to begin with, okay? Now, clarity, we break into 4 things: product, offer, audience, and message. But I've broken it down into be a bit simpler for you today. I'm going to be taking you through your identity, your audience, and your offer. These things need to be connected, they need to be aligned, and they need to be focused. Now, just to give me some insight into who you are and what you do, could you let me know in the chat box, like what it is that your business does? So like if you're a coach or a consultant, what do you coach and consult in? If you're in marketing, what part of marketing? If you sell a product, what's the product? Like, let me know what it is, because I need to know this information to really make this part stick. If I don't get it, it doesn't work. So digital marketing for law firms, we've got financial advisor, virtual assistant, vehicle leasing. So we've got a big variety, right? Now, with this stuff, I want you to now think about your position in that company. And we're going to begin with your identity. So I realized very early on, I remember watching some, I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk, like content. If you've not heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, he's a marketing influencer. But I remember him saying, you just need to document your journey. And for a long time, that's what I did. But I realized that people weren't interested in me. And I didn't have an audience that cared. And so documenting something, although it was quite cool to do, never really got the engagement that I needed to build a loyal audience. Instead, I had to figure out how to stand out in the crowded marketplace. And it started with answering this question: why on earth, bearing in mind, like if you've been using LinkedIn for a while, you've kind of got an audience there anyway. Anything above 1,000 people is a nice little starting point. But why should somebody click that follow or click that connect button in the first place? On the right-hand side there, you can see our 3 profiles. And I'm going to choose Sam as the example this time. I typically vary. But I don't know if anyone knows my business partner, Sam. But for those of you that do, give me an answer in the chat. Why would you follow Sam? Like, is it an easy answer to work out? Like, why would you follow her? What's the reason to follow Sam Rathling? Like, what are the words that you associate with her? What does she specialize in? So you've got valuable advice coming through there. You've got authenticity. One person sent it directly to me and has got it, right? But it's got to be extremely clear. Here we go. A few more people are getting it, right? It's LinkedIn. She is a LinkedIn specialist, more of a LinkedIn specialist than I am, right? It's so obvious. In like, you look at her profile, and therefore that's why her following is the largest one out of all 3 of us, right? Like, my following doesn't grow because actually sometimes my branding is a little bit confused, but my content is about sharing life, like the real hard lessons of growing a business right now. That's why people follow me, not just for social media advice, but actually life as a founder, trying to grow in one of the, what people say is a really easy time, but actually one of the most competitive times online. Once you understand that, you can then dive into a little bit more detail. So what is it that you're going to be talking about, sharing, that's going to want to make someone keep coming out to your profile? What is it specifically that you can add that's going to be interesting? Because I tell you, there are millions of people out here all fighting for the same attention you are. It's a battle that if you learn how to play properly, you can win, but you've got to work it out. And one of the things that I did with this business is take the time to identify the gaps in the industries. So like lots of social media people out there shy away from the taboo subjects like automation, engagement pods, what other things like spam direct messaging. People are afraid to talk about them. And so I spotted a gap here. I was like, well, if I'm quite a blunt person, like I'm not bothered if I upset a few people. I'm just going to be extremely direct and just say what I find, what works, what doesn't. I test the dark stuff, I test the good stuff, and genuinely, if it gives me advantage on the platform, I'm going to use it. I'm going to find any way to try and take advantage of social media profile because so many others are. If you learn how to do that, you can get ahead. And so what I'm going to say to you is if you aren't clear on those answers, take a pause on your social media activity and give yourself a couple of hours to actually think about any gaps, anything that you think you should be talking about that you're not, and also what your competition's talking about as well. Because when you do that and you get clear, then you can start building the right audience. And so my question to you right now is, who are you currently engaging with? Right? So when it comes to building your connection, like your followers, so your network connection requests, when you're sending them, are you sending these to people that you know? Are you sending them to ideal clients? Like, who are you currently sending them to? Let me know in it, because again, this is really, really important. Who are you currently connecting with? Prospects? Is it friends? Is it people that have got the same interests in you? Like, who is it that you're connecting with? Because this is a big lesson that people really need to learn. So strangers that are ICPs, strategic partners, prospects and industry peers, mostly competitors. So there's a big difference there, right? I'm going to give you some bit of advice here that will make a huge, huge difference to you. On the right-hand side, you can see my connections back in 2023 were around about 12,060. Okay. My biggest thing was I needed at the time to shift my network connection requests rather than just being to prospects. I had to make sure that my engagement was going to grow as well, because the fact of the matter is your ideal clients, your ICPs, your target market, your audience aren't on a platform like LinkedIn typically to read your content, especially if you're talking about what you do. They are on this platform typically for their own selfish reasons or because they're bored, right? That's why they're distracting themselves. So the biggest barriers that we've got to overcome is making sure, one, that they're active. So before you send any connection requests, especially right now on this platform today, you've got to go quickly check their profile and see whether they've engaged in anything in the last 7 to 14 days or whether they've posted anything. If they haven't, I'd move on. Because what you want is people that are going to be proactively engaging with you. That will make sure that your network acceptance rate, so the people that accept your connection request, goes up. That's your first thing. Make sure they're active. And then the second thing is that they're interested. So what most people do is default to just connecting with their ideal clients. I don't. I switch it up. One thing is they have to be active on the platform. The second thing is I then split it with ICP. So ideal clients go 50%. The other 50% are just people that are engaging in content that's similar to mine. And you just need to go out there, find your competitors, find the people talking about the same things, and go into their comment section and connect. When you do that, your rate of growth will go through the roof. And also, when you then start posting content that these people are already engaging with, but you're making it better than them, your engagement is going to go up as well. And when you start doing this properly, you connect it to a process which I'm going to be sharing with you very shortly. When you do that, that's then where your sales go up, as well as your follower growth. So you can see here on the left-hand side, my following went from 13,000 to 23,000-ish. And then the time that I went to do that, that was back in 2023. You can see the consistent growth from there with this business from that point. That is purely because I switched up the offer and my audience and got my identity right. And building up your audience is one of the most important things that you can do. Once you've done that, you can then move to your offer. And again, what I find time and time again is that people are either, and this is something that I did, trying to sell to people that they haven't yet earned the right to sell to, or selling too early, so to speak, or trying to sell to people that didn't see their service as a priority. And that's something, again, that I did. And what I did back, this was around about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, was that I was ignoring the opportunity that was in front of me because my offer didn't align with the audience that I'd earned the right to sell to at the time. Okay. Now, these are the sorts of objections. So these are the symptoms that you will get. You'll either get zero leads, so zero conversations, or if you're getting conversations, you'll be getting these objections. Number one, they can't afford it. Number two, they don't have time. Or number three, it's just not for me right now. I used to get them all the time, and it drove me absolutely crazy. And it was because my offer didn't tick these three boxes, so to speak. The service that I was offering, the offer that I was putting out there, wasn't in demand. People didn't understand it. They definitely weren't flipping chasing me to buy it. The quality on this right-hand side there wasn't great. It was all right, but it wasn't the best out there. And I wasn't aiming for it to be because my mindset wasn't at that point yet. And then also, it wasn't a long-term solution either. And so people didn't see working with us for a long time as the answer. And so what happened was that I ended up in this feast and famine cycle of using these social media platforms, getting a few opportunities, getting the objections, and then feeling like it wasn't working. The moment I switched my offer was the moment everything changed. At that time, I was selling an Instagram 2-day course, so a training course. I joined a mastermind back in 2019. It cost like 15 grand, I think it was. It was a fortune. The agency model that I had, it was Instagram agency work, so content creation, building a following. And the 2-day training courses, I actually really enjoyed delivering. I don't know, has anyone else run training courses on here? Just give me a yes in the chat if you do, I'm curious. I used to love delivering them, absolutely love it. But I found it a really difficult sell. Like it was something that I had to convince and persuade people to do. And I was just getting to the point where I hated the marketing and selling of this stuff. The hours that I was putting in from a marketing and sales perspective was so much higher than the delivery that I enjoyed. And I remember sitting down with Nick. This was in the Grosvenor Hotel on Park Lane in London. And we were having a chat around kind of like the business model itself. And I remember him turning around and saying to me, it's like, well, what do you actually want people to achieve after going on your Instagram training course? What was the outcome that you want? And I was like, well, to be fair, the majority of them just want to grow their following. They just want to learn how to grow a following of like 1,000 people. Like that would be an amazing result for them. And if they could do that in their first month, they'd never leave us because they just keep coming back. And it was like, well, why didn't you just do a how to grow 1,000 followers in 30 days challenge? Like the training would be the same. 2-day Instagram course, just break it down over 30 days, make it a challenge, give people a prize at the end, give them an entry fee and see how it goes. And literally, like, I mean, can you see it, by the way, for those of you that are on here, can you see the difference, like in terms of the 2-day course versus the 1,000 followers in 30 days challenge? Even just the change in the name. Does the 30, just give me, like, again, I need you to see this, but does the 30-day challenge sound more appealing than a 2-day course? Just give me a yes or an, I'm genuinely curious to know the answer to you, right? Like, the numbers were insane when I marketed this because I was probably pulling in like 2 to 3 grand at the time a month. I marketed this throughout March to see and to test. They were the results in April. You can see how hard it was before then. Like I was really struggling, like to be able to get the move. And then boom, we had the proper launch. And we ran 2 webinars where we then sold at the end of it and bang, they were the results. I looked at it and it was like I just invented fire because suddenly it was like, this is easy. The course was pretty much automated. I had to show up to a weekly Q&A. It was a £300 program, £10 a day for people. It was insane. But what I'm finding time and time again is that so many people are trying to sell stuff that people just don't want. And they're framing it in a way that isn't linked to an outcome. And so your identity, your audience, and also your offer are the 3 things that you've got to get right if your LinkedIn stuff is ever going to work. And I'm curious at this stage, have we got any sales nav or premium users on here right now? Like paying LinkedIn for like the specific services, right? So I think it ranges from like 50 quid to 100 quid a month. There's loads of people that I think do it. There's a few people that won't be, which is totally fine. I'm just confused. So I used to pay LinkedIn at the beginning for sales nav all the time. Sam teaches sales. If you're going after corporate business, sales nav is a great tool to be able to do kind of like prospect mapping, organizational chart work, prospecting. Now, I look at this and I'm like, the amount of people that are spending money on tools and tech like this before they've got their message, audience, and offer right is scary. Just giving money away. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, if you learn how to use these tools correctly, they are extremely profitable. But at least get LinkedIn working with you, the free version of it for free, and then start utilizing these tools because they will give you great returns, but only when you can demonstrate why working with your business is a no-brainer to people. The reality is the majority of people don't do it and then instead waste time and money hoping that it's going to work. And today, I want to give you the opportunity to talk through your social selling strategy, right? So your identity, your audience, your offer, your content, direct messaging, your conversion elements, whether it's webinars or anything. I'm going to give you 30 minutes of my time, right, to be able to talk through that stuff. Now, with it, you'll see that there is a QR code in the top right-hand corner there for you to be able to scan. I'm just going to pop the link in the chat. It's first come, first serve on this, right? So I'm just going to put it in here, socialselling.co.uk/apply. I will need to have the answers to the questions. But inside of that, if you're struggling for a social media strategy, like some focus points for LinkedIn to really understand what you need to change and how you need to get it working for you, that link is there for you to click. The QR code is going to be there for you throughout the whole of the session. So on the top right-hand corner there's around about 20 slots over tomorrow and early next week. So if you're currently struggling, that QR code is there. My gift to you, feel free to book it in. Now, clarity is sorted. Now we can go into the nitty-gritty of LinkedIn, okay? So there's 3 things specifically on LinkedIn that we need to be focusing in on: prospecting, engaging, and posting. Now, prospecting is the combination between your network building and your outreach. And I'm going to be honest with you now, I automate this activity for me. Now, I don't know if anyone's on here has ever received a direct message from me, but my message typically looks a bit like that on the right-hand side, where I'm just offering value. I do not want in-depth conversations with people on LinkedIn at this stage. Whenever I'm on the hunt for corporate business, I'm in the DMs and I'm working my magic in voice notes and also in video messages. Written messages don't have the same like real result for people. And one of the things that we talk to people a lot is about direct messaging strategy, right? Now, this is about outbound. So lots of people talk about inbound, and I will talk to you about that in a second. But outbound is how you take control of your marketing, how you take control of your social selling process. So if you're not doing it, you are leaving a minimum of 50% of your opportunity on the table. You need to be building your profiles, like I mentioned before, with active and interested people, okay? So 100 to 200 connection requests every single week. I do not send a message at the point of connection. The acceptance rates are lower whenever I send a message. People just expect to be sold to when you send them a message. I just send the connection requests out, max out my volume. From there, I then have a value addition message that I send. I know we're probably all receiving like crap messages out there. Out of interest, who in the last week has received a spammy LinkedIn sales message from someone promising them the world, right? Most people are sending them without any real thought. They think that if they send 1,000, that eventually someone will respond. It's not true. I typically get around about a 15 to 20% response rate from this message with people saying thank you. Not everybody downloads my lead magnets. Not everybody watches my videos. Not everybody is interested. That's totally fine. But for me, out of every 1,000 messages that I send, I am getting between 100 and 200 responses. And that is extremely important. Those numbers, unless I'm getting those, it isn't worth the effort. And for me, I've got a lot of this automated now. That's something, again, that we teach lots of people how to do, is the automation setup behind this. I've done this. I've tested it for years. And depending on your offer, if you're selling something that is under $3,000, again, there's a certain approach. If you're selling something that's over $3,000, right, 3 to 10 to 15 to 20-ish, different approach. If you're selling something that's over 20-ish, different approach. And what I'm finding is that people are just going after the same demographic. So one of the things I'm really keen for people to do is be open-minded enough to switch up who you're targeting. because the levels of TLC required to get a response from somebody that's at board level is very, very huge, especially when they're not on the platform very much. And again, you can see here the sorts of responses that I get. Hi, Chris. Thanks, Chris. These are the responses that I mentioned. People saying thank you. Also, there's one in here, I think, that says no, thank you, I think, somewhere. No, there's not, actually, not on this one. Normally, I think I get some people that tell me to go away. But there's also something to think about with outreach around video messaging. Has anyone ever sent a video message before? It's a bit of an out there one. But an introductory video message is extremely powerful. And it's something that one of our ex-sales managers used to do. Voice notes are another good thing to do, great thing to. It's about differentiation, right? It's about being personalized and having it and understanding what you need to say. Now, if you go and look up Gal Agar on LinkedIn, he is extremely successful. He became one of our clients for, I think, between 6 and 12 months. And that came from this conversation that Leanne had with him. And you can see here, Sam, there's a lot sitting on you. I couldn't give good faith, recommend whether I can definitely help without asking more questions. Got a call booked in, the deal was done. Corporate prospecting done properly, but doing it differently. Not being lazy, having a process, saying the right thing, and then following the sales methods that actually convert. We then have engaging. Okay, so lots of you have probably been to an in-person networking event before. I love networking, not done a lot of it recently, but love it. Engagement on the newsfeed, simple form of online networking, right? It's not something that I spent hours doing. It's very easy to do. But what's the one thing that all of us want on our content? Giselle, there will be a replay set out, so you can have a look at it on the replay. But what's the one thing we all want whenever we put a piece of content out there, right? Comments, likes, comments. So if you're the first person that comments on the same person's piece of content for the same week to 2 weeks, and they're not getting that many, they're going to remember you. And it's a great way then to follow up with the message, because if they know your name, that's the first battle that you've got to stand out in an inbox. I just tell people 10 minutes a day, nothing more than that. Have a list of 5 to 10 people, right, that you can just go out, check to see if they've posted, and then show up every day in their comment section. Is it going to change the world? No. But all of these little things do make a difference, especially right now on LinkedIn, because there are so many bot comments out there. There's so many people that are trying to cheat the game, cheat the system. You do it properly, you can get the attention of some very, very senior people, and that cannot be neglected. Now we move on to the bit that most people want to talk about: content, posting, what works, what doesn't. Now, what I find is most people don't share enough, or they share information that their audience just do not care about. People document their journey, share their wins, all of this stuff, but it's a lot more difficult than that. It's more complex than that. When you're looking to drive your impressions up, there's certain content that you need to post to build your following. There's then also certain content that you need to put out there to nurture. And then there's certain content that you don't need to put out a lot, but do need to do a bit of, that's going to convert. When you get the right strategy in place, it's amazing how your impressions grow, right? So from here, you can see the low spike and the big spike with the consistency. I think that's my stats, actually. We've then got 4 million there. Again, look at it, the growth that sits there with the odd push. The last 365 days, you can see the growth. You'll need your engagement and your impressions consistently going up, right? Now, this is the sort of content that performs well today. It's normally, if you want to write these things down, fueled with emotion. So if you go onto Google and type in the emotions wheel, put it in the chat box for you, the emotions wheel. If you use any of the words on the outside of that emotions wheel in your headlines, in your hooks, you will get a spike in your impressions. If you talk about the real big myths, the taboo subjects in your industry and also the world, you will get a huge amount of impressions. If you include then in the body of your content either lessons, stories, in a way that actually is interesting, following the right story structure, you will see the growth. And I'm not talking about millions of impressions here, because actually I've not achieved that. Our customers have, I haven't. Now, the stuff that works on here, I can share with you like their results and with what they do. But the journey that I've been on, actually, my content works for me and it may not work for you. You need to find your own way. And that's what we help with. So we give one-to-one support on this with any customer that we work with. And so with it, we need to figure out, how are you funny? Do you have humor? Are you sarcastic? Are you blunt? Are you really opinionated, or are you quite quiet? Are you quite passionate? Are you caring? We need to figure out the attributes and the emotions that you're best going to tap into to start building up your impression levels. Now, again, all of you here can see the sorts of content that I post. But with it, when you do it properly and you start following, so again, with it, we know the content types of work. Philippa is a recruitment consultant, right? Now, if you're just going out there and building your network connection, like sending your connection requests out, you'll grow maybe 200 to 300 a month followers max. Nicola, when she got the right content, grew by 500 in 5 days. You talk about inbound. You start talking about the real difficult subjects in your space. You start talking about the real world topics of debate. You will see following go up. You will see messaging in inbound go up, and you will see people wanting to work with you go up. On the left-hand side here, you can see when you start again, you will then receive DM messages from people that you worked with years ago and was so happy because they actually reached out saying, I love your post so much. I'm so happy you're breaking away from the norm. This is about differentiation, people. And you don't even need a huge following to do this. So Zoe is my fiance. You can see she has 880 followers. She has, I think, about 900 now. Even Zoe with 900 followers was able to reach 133,000 people. Now, if I'm going to ask you now, what is the average amount of impressions you currently get on LinkedIn? Can you be honest with me and tell me what you get per post, just out of curiosity? There's over 70 of you on right now. I'd like to have at least 10 answers of people telling me what their average number of impressions. Feel free to send it directly to me, right? If you've got 1,000 followers or more, it needs to be above minimum 1,000 to 3,000 minimum, right? If you're not getting that, you need to book that call in because you are wasting your time. And I don't mean to sound horrible. It is just the truth. This is what's possible on that account. And then, like I said, right, the reactions, the responses that you get, considerate experience in dogs and considering investment opportunities. Look what Zoe's profile says. I help busy people with cash that might increase their wealth through hands-off property investments into property to create dog-focused holiday lets. I have considerate experience with dogs and considering investment opportunities. The second one that came in. You get the right content out there, this happens all the time. And when you do, and again, it's not just in property, it's not just in social media land, it's in everything. Matt Fletcher here, 30,000 followers Matt's got now. Matt was one of Sam's first customers. Why our business grows so quickly was one of the reasons, because like the results are undeniable, right? 30,000, I think Matt had when he first started around about 4 or 5. 127,000 talking about engineering equipment, right? These are the sorts of messages that we get very, very frequently. I've taken on 18 new customers this month, 129,000 views from a post. Like activity, hugely important. We can now go into conversion, okay? The biggest issue that so many people have with platforms like LinkedIn, right, is that you're either sitting there and waiting for business to come to you, or you have no idea how to approach people. You're either reactive or you're proactive. Now, again, honesty, really important. If I was going to ask you, which one are you in? Are you a reactive LinkedIn user, number 1? Or are you a proactive user, like number 2? Which one are you? I typically, when I first started doing this, was a 2. Right? The majority, I believe right now, that come to these sessions, like, are reactive, waiting. And I want to stop you from waiting. I want to give you the plan to stop waiting. Because once you know where you're at, you can then start putting in place the right mode and method to generate business. Do you want to know the biggest reason why people don't see social media results? Do you want to know the biggest reason why people are not getting consistent leads through? Out of anything that I've said, there is one reason, and one reason alone, and it is because they lack the process. right? It is because the mindset of your user is not to buy from you. You need to understand that and put a process together that effectively nurtures. You're either selling too much, not selling at all. And when you understand how to put together a proper sales funnel, sales process, has everyone heard of the term a sales funnel before? Can I just check before I start using that term? Has everyone heard of that concept before, right? When you've got one that converts, everything becomes so much easier and the pressure is removed. Because, like, for me, I utilize my social media profiles now just to showcase what we do and share my views on the world. I've given you my content strategy just a second ago. The direct messaging then drives people into the next stage of our process. And I actually love this message exchange, actually. So when you start posting the right content that triggers, loved your post tonight, watch your YouTube clip, tomorrow is the document. So the biggest thing in marketing are touch points and dwell time. Okay. So how many times can you get in front of somebody and how long can you keep them there? Paramount that you understand this, because when you do, you can then build in the touch points. And this is what happened here. Saw some LinkedIn content, sent me a message, watched a YouTube video, and bang, straight away, I'll come back to you early next week. My twins have a birthday party today, so I'm balls deep organizing it. On your excellent YouTube clip, the deal was, does that remain? So this was when our product was 250 quid for a year. It's now 500 quid for 6 months. So it's just a shorter time frame for people, just based on feedback. I'd like to book a call in to discuss what's the best way to do it. Are you free today or tomorrow? I'm free at 10 to 12, right? Boom, call booked in, inbound lead. Typically get those normally 2 to 3 times a week. The majority of our business, and again, this is just another example, I think. So February the 2nd, you can see this come in. Just saw your message on Sales Nav, booked a call in, utilize the webinar to get to really showcase what we're about. Training video sounds good, send it over. Love the webinar. 3 hours later, signed up. You've got to build your assets. You've got to build your sales funnel. You've got to build the process and automate as much as you can so it compounds. I've got around 100 videos on my YouTube channel. Chris Taylor Online, if you want to go and find it, you'll see hundreds of videos on there. People spend hours consuming our stuff. When they then come to booking a call and sending me a message, they're already in. I don't have to persuade or convince them. They know the results that we get. They know they want to work with us. And it's because of this process. If you haven't got one drawn out, written down, in place that's implemented, this is why your social media activity isn't working. This is the biggest reason why. You get this in place, everything becomes so much easier. And this is what we spend. I must spend around about 20 to 30 hours every week talking to people on calls, helping them build step by step, training, accountability, building out their processes. This is one process. Typically, like we've got 5 of these that all actually work. So webinars, audits, strategy calls, and we have evergreen processes in place, all then giving the traffic sources, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, podcasting, all giving it the chance to then filter through this process. We are inundated with volume because our activity allows us to be. And actually now, because we have built that email list up, again, this is really important. Who's currently got an email list that they are building every day? Give me a yes or a no. Who's currently got an email list, right? The majority of people, I tell you, that ever sign up to a workshop, again, let's do this just to prove the point. If everybody could switch their chat box to everyone, let's just see. I actually don't know the answer to this, so let's just see. You have registered for this webinar today, this workshop today, typically because you found me on social media or because you've received an email. Which one are you? Did you register off an email or did you register off social media? I'm going to sit here in silence now and let you just see the impact that email has. Can everyone see the importance of email right now? Give me a yes in the chat if you can see the importance of email. Right? This is where it doesn't matter if we're selling corporate business, like upwards of 20 grand for a training day, or we're selling low ticket subscription business, doesn't matter. Email, 80% of the opportunity every single time. We've built our list now up to, we've just cleaned our list. It's back down to 10,000 now. It's upwards of over 22,000, but that's a lot of legacy data. As a business now, we don't need social media, right? We will use it and take advantage of it, but our email list will keep us going for at least a year. You take the email list away, our pipeline would be on the floor in weeks, if not days. This is why so many are struggling, because they are not protected. They don't know how to build their lists. They don't understand how to get the right people onto it. My biggest bit of advice to you all right now is, if you don't understand how email lists are working, book in that call and I'll talk you through it. Because, and I don't even know if there's any slots left, but anyway, like, I'm just going to say it, because your email list, no matter what business you've got, is the most important thing. There is a reason why the biggest businesses in the world, even companies like Apple, even companies like Microsoft, are still pinging your inboxes with emails, right? It is the most important thing. And so have a think about your current customer journey, right? So this is the process that we help people build. We work with people on our pro membership, 500 quid a month for 6 months, building out this process, right? So we look at the clarity, product, audience, offer, and message. We then pick a connection channel. There's so many different things that we teach that you can do. But let's say LinkedIn is the focus point. We then get some lead magnets created. We then pick out the conversion mechanisms. We make sure that it's going to convert for you. We watch it, give you feedback, review your sales calls, look at your audits, look at your evergreen, look at your whole sales funnel. We then look at how you close business as well. This is the stuff that you need to now print screen and tick off. What are you doing? And then look at what are you doing and ask yourself, is it working? Because the reason why, again, we are inundated with business, and it's not just this business, we have other businesses that we're a part of as well. We have a web design company that's growing. We have different things that we're doing. The reason it is because we've got multiple traffic sources, multiple control mechanisms, multiple conversion pieces, and multiple opportunities to do a deal. And when we work with someone, that's what we do. Help you find product market fit, identify how you're going to build your list out, pick and build your conversion vehicle. Within month one, see the revenue coming through. We then compound after that. We then grow month in, month out. We then look to automate 85% of the manual work, because we can do. And there's some big pieces of advice here that I'm just going to go through, right? Your prospects need to be taken on a journey. And if you're selling to people or wanting to sell to people that don't already know who you are, you need to understand the importance of a nurturing process. A stranger is never going to buy from you online in the same way that someone is not just going to buy from you typically if you just go shake the hand on the street and say, buy my stuff. It's a process that you need to build, and you can be in control of this when you build it. And George is a prime example. Go and look at George online, George Burns, you'll see him, right? We built out his offer. We then built out his webinar. His post then went through the roof. Again, you can see millions of, like 1 million impressions on that over a 28-day period, 1.3 million over a 365-day period on LinkedIn, got his content working. And then he also followed in the same footsteps that I did, raised some money for his property business, and then did 60 grand in education business as well. Your process, we're not magicians here. Your process is the most important thing, right? And the proof is just in the evidence. I've shared with you numerous examples today, but the reality is this stuff isn't easy. As much as any expert wants you to convince you that it is, it isn't. It takes effort. It's why I spend hours on calls with people, helping them build it, because you've got to test it, and the devil is in the detail. And the way that you work with us is via the Social Selling Academy, if you've not heard of it before. It is a program where we give you training. We give you the accountability is something that everybody seems to want, but no one seems to get anywhere else. We give you the accountability. So there are deadlines in place. We review your work. We have calls booked in the diary that we always work towards. They're fit and we've worked through them. We then have mentoring, live group sessions. We have one-to-one calls. We then have all the technology that helps you do it. Now, this is in build at the moment. We have lead magnets that are live. We have email marketing that's coming, and we're constantly building this to the point where we will potentially have online course hosting, all of that being done. I know people spend fortunes on this stuff, right? But we have specific trainings and workshops to take you through every single step of that social selling business growth journey. So we help you build your sales funnel. We help you then build out your traffic sources. We tell you what you need to do, why you need to do it, and then how you go about doing it. We also are an in-person, so we're not just online here. What you need to realize is we're not just online, right? We're in person as well. So we meet in Birmingham every quarter, and it's a training and mastermind session that is included. It's 500 quid a month for 6 months. And then we head for food and drink. So in December, we've got a bit of a Christmas one going on. And again, with it, they are free to attend for pro members. And you can see the feedback that we get. We had Odile come across from America, right? We have people traveling internationally for our events, typically between 20 and 40 people that come to our sessions. Our 30-day plans teach you everything in here. So we are not just about LinkedIn. We are business growth, business fundamentals. We will teach you everything from product market identification through to marketing, sales, and then how do you deliver and how do you then scale? We take you through this, but we do it in 30-day windows because I don't like to get people spending too long on this stuff, right? We take you through it. We build out your plan. We build out your roadmap, and then you work through the system, which then presents you training. What it will get to the point of is where when you input your data, the system will then tell you where the error is in your process, and then it will tell you what videos to watch. At the moment, we're doing that with you inside of Slack, one-to-one in your Slack channel. So you get a one-to-one channel with us, and we will tell you what you need to fix. We're going to get to the point where the system will also then be able to give you even more specific feedback as well. We generate so many incredible results that you've seen. We are a team of 5. We're only a small team. This business is a very, very intimate business. We're all about making sure that you get to know each and every one of us. I'm all about marketing and sales strategy. Sam is about LinkedIn. Nick is about scaling, business strategy, also some very blunt, direct advice. Zoe talks about sales funnels, graphic design. And then we have Elise that does social media strategy and conversion campaigns. We are going to set your objectives, right? So we have our first call, we set your objectives, and then we work together every single week to achieve them. What we ask for you is that you just listen, apply, and then be open to adapt and grow. We, like I mentioned, have the one-to-one mentoring that's there. So we will review your business progress as you go. So you submit your work to us. We will tell you what's right, what's wrong. You can see the different calls that I've done with people here, right? So I go one with Jay, one with Jeremy, 20 to 30 minutes. And again, we have the time booked in to discuss your strategy and what's working. We then have the group sessions every Monday at 12, every Thursday at 2. And then we're driving the accountability on those 30-day plans. What I want you to do, these are quite small here, but what we want you to do is be sharing your wins because your wins help us grow in the same way that, again, we hope that you then go on to refer us and talk about us even more. The technology, I won't spend too long talking about it, but again, like I said, we're building it. We track and monitor absolutely everything, right? Absolutely everything. So every link click, every lead magnet download, every email, all the data tells you something different. People typically spend £100 to £200 a month just on tech. We give you it, right? It's going to be built in here for you to be able to use. And so you need to work with us for 6 months, really important. 6 months that you're going to work with us on. That is purely because there is a cost to this program, right? It's all there for you. It's 500 quid a month for 6 months. You can split it over 12 if you want to. But most people have said to me they want to work 6 months and really go and then really get to grips with everything. So it's 6 months. You get all of the one-to-one support. We also have a 30-minute session together right at the front end. So a more in-depth strategy session where I'm going to pull apart your business and put it back together again. Big thing is you can't just join this, right? So I need to understand and make sure that this is going to work for your business. So I need to make sure you're in the right position. I need to make sure that you can afford it. And I need to make sure that we're also going to get on because we spend lots and lots of time talking to each other. I can only take on 10 people this month, right? This used to be more. I've had to put it down a little bit purely because we've got a lot more in depth with some of this information. And I want to make sure that I can deliver everything possible the same with the team. Now, if you want to work with us, if you want to come and talk to us about it, the QR code is there. Same thing as before, right? I need you to take a photo of that QR code, scan it, and fill out the questions that are on there so I can do my research on you. I'm not turning up to this call blind, right? I need to do some research. I need to figure out my approach, and then I'll give you the direction I think. And then if we can work together, we will. If we can't, I'll be honest with you, and I'll direct you to someone that you might be able to work with. It doesn't work for everyone, right? It doesn't. And I'm very, very honest and transparent with it. I'll share with you what everything looks like. I'll share with you how Slack works. I'll share with you how the one-to-one support works. Again, just on that call, because otherwise I'll spend all day. Giselle, no problems at all. Glad you enjoyed it. For those of you that have had to go, not a problem. I'm glad that it was helpful. I mean, actually, was it helpful? Has today been good for you? Give me a thumbs up or some form of yes or whatever. Has it been helpful? Have you learned something? I'm hoping you have. Rosie, the £50 a month offer is everything that I've spoken about. And again, if you want to book a call in, we can talk about it. It just doesn't have the one-to-one support. So you don't get to work personally with me. So this is all of today's session is about people have been asking whether they can come back and work one-to-one with me again. So I'm offering it out. I don't offer it all the time. But good. People have enjoyed it. Amazing. if anybody else wants to know about the other offer as well, just book a call in and I'll talk about it. Amazing. I'm glad that was helpful. Are there any other questions at all? I mean, I did say I'll answer a Q&A. I'm going to have a look. Emma, I won't send the slide deck because it's quite a big file, but the recording will be live within the next 24 hours. Rosie has asked, how long should an ideal post be? And my answer is quite, it's not very nice, actually. It's long enough until someone gets bored reading it. But typically, I don't like posting anything that's like more than like 400, 500 characters, really. Thank you, Ian. Amazing stuff. Cool. I appreciate that a lot. And Rosie, is it better to post as a business page or personal page? Personal page every single time. Melissa, are hashtags still useful to include in posts? I still use them. Are they useful? Not really. I mean, I don't follow any hashtags. I don't know if you do. I utilize them just in case someone does. But again, I don't expect miracles from hashtags at all. It's not like Instagram where people do follow hashtags in the same way. Helen, do you also work with business LinkedIn pages also? Yes, we do. We have a specific approach for them. And again, something that we do talk about quite a lot. It's Sam also talks a lot about them as well for companies. But I will also talk about personal profiles and business in combination. I think the combination is really important. Perfect. Right. Okay. Thank you very, very much for today. I've really, really enjoyed it. The engagement has been absolutely epic. So thank you. It makes these things so much easier. And for those of you that have booked your calls in, I can't wait to speak to you. Amazing stuff. And there's still loads of you online, which I'm like, it's incredible to see the numbers because I've run over time. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing evening whenever you're watching this. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Thank you very much and goodbye.